I'm going to call you Spunky from now on. Okay? Spunky.
Race tax. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
I'm making animal noises. I'm making animal noises right now.
Alex, speaking of animals.
More abortions. What did you think of that? What was that noise? What animal noise am I making?
An at you? I don't know. I have no idea.
No. More abortions. Raise taxes. Well, you know what sound that is? The sound of? You know what's the sound of?
Rhino.
I know.
Listen, a lot of our listeners, they don't even know what the word rhino.
Most of our listeners are quite smart people. We are talking about people.
No. I mean, we have to compensate. We have listeners in Japan, viewers in Taiwan, the Philippines. For some reason we're very big in Asia. They probably don't get they think that the word rhino only refers to that big mammal with either one horn or two horns. That's
the fat unicorn, right?
Big fat unicorn. Yeah. Anyway, so what is the political meaning of a rhino?
Well,
start with you.
Well, I mean, first of all, they are far from magical, but they definitely are fat. They are people who are Republican in name only. Mm-hmm. Basically, another name for a very similar thing is an establishment Republican. Basically, they hold to the idea of maintaining how things are, even to the point of abandoning original Republican and conservative principles. So they would rather capitulate and bend over to the will and whim of who should be their opponents, namely Marxists and leftists and people who want to destroy the Constitution. They would much rather give the homage to them than actually stand for something, principles. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So,
well, I have a slight modification. I agree with what you've said, but I'd like to drill down a little deeper into that because the way I see it, if you take Mitt Romney as an example of Republican rhino,
it's the poster child of rhinos, sure.
Yeah, he's interested in practical outcomes with his republicanism. In other words, he's only concerned with economic growth, reduction of taxes, reduction of size of government. That's the extent of his conservatism. Okay, and it's true that conservatives are very skeptical and very critical of large government agencies, the multiplication of government, and higher taxes. So he does qualify as being a Republican in that sense, but he's really not a conservative, and that's why we use the word rhino, Republican in name only. Because a real Republican, a conservative Republican, is a person who actually believes in the transcendent objective realities of reality, truth, goodness, and beauty because of the natural law. So a true conservative will get involved in social issues and social debates, whereas a rhino runs away as far away as fast as they can.
They herd together and run away.
Right. They are horny. They have two horns, but that's about as close as they get to a rhino.
They will do about whatever they can to advance themselves. They're not particularly concerned in conserving America. They're more.
In my day, they were called country club Republicans. Let's rewind the clock back to 1964 when Lyndon Baines Johnson. I remember this very, very distinctly because I was in Mexico at the time, building schools in a very poor village in Mexico, and I remember watching Lyndon Baines Johnson tell the American people that he would not run for re-election. He had already beaten Barry Goldwater. Who
was the poster child of conservatives, by the way.
So Johnson filled out the last year of Kennedy's presidency. Kennedy was assassinated. Johnson fills out the last year. He runs against Goldwater. And Goldwater is really the benchmark to the opposite of a rhino. Because Barry Goldwater would roll up his sleeves and get involved in all of the social issues of homosexuality and
abortion
and race relations, bigotry, and the whole question as to whether or not there are differences in the IQ of races. He would say his absolutely toxic relationship with communism. He was an avid anti-communist, and saw the world as being threatened by communism, and he was beaten soundly by Lyndon Johnson, the liberal Democrat. I think Goldwater only won 2 states, his own home state of Arizona and the state of Massachusetts, I think, for some strange reason.
Ironically, Massachusetts. But what's interesting about, I mean, since that phenomenon,
yeah,
pretty much every RNC, National Republican Convention, when they nominate their Republican guy, they use him as and really up until Trump, they've always used well, we can't pick somebody that represents all of our values because he's going to lose like Barry Goldwater. Right. So we have to pick somebody who doesn't represent our values to carry on our values.
They also had another stupid thing in the Republican National Committee, and that was that, it's my turn to run for president. They had this thing. No, they actually did. No, they actually had this thing that when they nominated their candidate for president, it was, okay, whose turn is it to run? Seriously, this is why John McCain ran against Obama.
Because it was his turn.
It was his turn.
His turn to lose. His turn to lose. Turn.
Exactly. His turn to lose, right? They take turns at being losers, right?
So Trump comes about.
Wonderful.
And he's the first serious presidential, well, I mean, at the time he wasn't branded as serious, but he's the first viable contender that comes up and says, I don't care whose turn it is, I'm going to be president, and I'm going to do conservative stuff. That's what he says.
He just elbowed his way. He elbowed his way into the table. He's not a Republican. He's not a conservative. He's a businessman, and he's a patriot, okay? And if anything, he's a libertarian, if anything. And he's even far away from that. Very far away.
Yeah. So I want to get back more to the central topic of rhino. We now that we've gone over the history of rhinos, let's go more into what are they doing right now? Because trust me, I go to a lot of MAGA meetups, a lot of conventions and group discussions, all that stuff, all that fun stuff. And consistently, the number one complaint usually isn't, I mean, sometimes it is leftists and liberals, but right now, what they're mostly concerned about are rhinos, establishment Republicans, especially here in D.C., where if you are brave enough to register as a Republican, you register as you act like a rhino, basically light Democrat.
Right.
So we are dominated, the higher ups, by people that don't want to rock the boat, and that drives pro-Trump people crazy. They want a purging of all these hippity country club Republican, squishy little.
In your capacity as a journalist, as a DC journalist, by the way, congratulations on everything you're doing. You're writing some great articles.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, because you had an interview, or you had the opportunity to ask Kevin McCarthy, who's the leader, the minority leader in the House of Representatives, and he's a representative from Bakersfield here in California. I know Kevin. I've had dealings with him. I was going to say I had relations with him, but that's not true. So, but anyway, I can verify to you that in my own personal experience that he is a rhino, and here's the reason. During the 2016 campaign, where Trump swept into office. We were running a candidate called Chris Mitchum for the 24th Congressional District against Lois Capps, who was a long time serving liberal, feminist, Democrat congresswoman. And I was campaign manager for Chris Mitchum, and we beseeched the RNC to give us money because the DNC was giving Lois tons of money. Gave her $2 million, all right? All we asked for was $90,000. We just wanted $90,000 to counteract a last-minute assassination video that Lois Capps put out, where she actually edited Chris Mitchum's words so that they said something opposite of what he actually said. So I asked Kevin McCarthy, who was the chair of the Republican Congressional Elections committee, which doled out the money. I said, "Hey, Kevin, all I need is $90,000, and I can. You know, we're in 2% of winning here." No, no, you can't win there. No, she's too powerful. So these overlords. Another factor about a rhino when they get into power is that they become an overlord. They become quite fascist.
It's their way. This is how they've done it. This is even if
Yep.
they lose, it doesn't matter to them. They still have their country club membership. Their stock portfolio
Yep.
still goes up.
Yep.
You know, they are there. They don't need to win. They've already won.
Right.
So, yeah, it is annoying to see this, but with Trump winning and him slowly flushing out the deep state, slowly, very, very slowly, replacing activist judges with conservative judges who actually respect the rule of law and the Constitution. With that there sort of is a exodus of the rhinos, and there's a big, massive reason why. Because the rhinos, not necessarily conservatives, not necessarily Republicans, but the rhinos totally miserably failed at getting my generation to come over to them. They failed because they thought we would come over if they offered, free lunches for students. They neglected the power of the internet. They neglected the power of the schools, going to the schools and talking to us. No, they just abandoned us and let the Democrats have a free buffet of my generation.
And the Democrats scooped up your generation in high style. They did a great job of getting to your generation.
Yes.
Because they made a pitch for feelings. They made a pitch for feeling. Free education, free food, free housing, free income. Everything free.
And how are we going to know any better? We've barely left our homes. We're barely left our parents' basement. How are we supposed to know any better?
Oh, some of them are still living in their parents' basement.
Sure, yeah. And then these establishment rhinos, they just kind of expect us to come on over because we're rich and we have free lunch, and we can listen to somebody telling us the talking points of Rush Limbaugh while we eat rubber chicken together. That's their idea of youth outreach. It's not grassroots activism, going door to door knocking, phone banking, not that kind of stuff. With the stuff that actually matters.
The way I see the 2016 congressional sweep by the Democrats to retake the House. They retook the House in 2016. And the reason is...
18.
Huh?
2018.
No, 2018. Yes, I'm sorry. The reason they did that was because the rhinos are not being reelected in their districts. And that's why they lost enough seats. I think it was they're only down like 13 seats. It's close, but it's still a loss.
That's a great theory. That's a great theory.
Yeah, they're not being reelected, and we can point to several districts, congressional districts, where had Kevin McCarthy put the money and the pedal to the metal with the money in 2016, he would have had a supermajority in the Congress, and he would have withstood the Democratic retake in 2019, as you just pointed out. But he didn't do it because rhinos don't take risks. Their number one thing is, well, I have to think of the party, and the party.
They don't think of policy.
No, they don't. Remember General Douglas MacArthur's farewell speech at West Point.
No, I wasn't born then, but I'm sure you remember when he talked to you.
I was there. I was there in the front row. I was a little cadet. I had a little cadet hat on there. And he said, as I cross the river Styx, he said, I will remember one thing: the core, and the core. He was a Republican. He ran for office, and he was slaughtered in the primary. And he was a sitting general running the Korean War when he ran.
As president or senator?
No, he ran for president. He got slaughtered in the primary.
Why is that?
Because, like Goldwater, General Douglas MacArthur was a true conservative. He believed in the principles and the values the ethical, moral, social, transcendental principles and values that Mitt Romney has never even heard of, except in his Episcopal church. Maybe, maybe on Easter Sunday.
Mitt Romney's Mormon. He's Mormon. I'd like to put it. I'm sure more Mormons are conservative than Mitt Romney is.
More Mormons are homosexual than people realize as well. So,
well, I mean, the thing
that to the
about
bank.
Mitt Romney, I think that he will last a very, very long. He will be a great swamp monster, and he will last a long time in the Senate. But the day he really crosses Trump, and Trump doesn't endorse him in the primary, or Trump goes after him during primary season. It's, so I think Mitt Romney is going as a Rhino. He wants to stay where he is.
I'm glad he got elected. I'm glad he got elected to the Senate, and I'll tell you why. He is at least a gentleman, okay?
Yeah.
And he does certain things very, very well.
Yeah.
He watches the checkbook. He watches the spending. He watches the budget. There are things he does very well, and he's very. I think Trump should come out and say, you know what? I really love Mitt Romney in the Senate. I think he's in the best place in the world. He's terrific. I love that guy.
Well,
that would be Trump's card. That would be the Trump card.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're over our time, so we're gonna sign off. And there's what rhinos are: both the ones with the horns and the horny ones that are in Congress. So there you go. Anyway,
here's the fat unicorns.
Hey, thank you, Alex.
Yeah, you bet. You take care.
Bye bye.